Let the deafening silence begin the show.
Well, normally you start and don't warn us, and so this time you warn us, and we panicked.
Everyone tensed up.
We panicked. You didn't catch us at our casual best.
Is that like wearing one of those T-shirts with the tuxedo printed on it?
I always wanted one of those.
My casual best.
There's a Snuggie with a tuxedo printed on it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I saw something to that effect.
A snugcedo?
Yes, a Snugcedo.
Snugcedo. Welcome to ArTechník. If you've never been here before, welcome. This is what, 23?
Aaron?
Is this 23?
I thought it was 22, but that's normally your job, so...
I may live in the future. Where it's, well,
What a
whatever I said
ridiculous
at the
concept
top.
for an episode.
Say what?
Nothing going on.
All right. Anyway, for those of you who don't know us, this is a podcast about the intersection of art and technology.
Mm-hmm.
I am Jeff, and here is...
My name's Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
All right, and Aaron is Skyping in, or G plus video
Hanging
chatting.
out.
Hanging out.
Yeah, he's hanging out.
He's hanging out, but not here. He's
Nope.
hanging out virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if he sounds like he's in a tin can, that's because he is.
Kind of.
In an aluminum can.
What?
Eating beans.
Yeah.
Oh.
Tasty beans.
Yeah, you're being run through how many different machines? Because there's a computer.
He's being
Yeah.
run through his machine,
Uh-huh.
his microphone, through this massive thing called the internet, into your machine, out into a microphone
That is recording.
that has a computer in it.
Wow.
The internet, you say? How can I get one of these?
Well, call Al Gore.
Uh-huh.
His number is 212-122-2222. I don't know why he has a New York City area code, but he does.
I didn't know that's what that was.
That's what 212 is.
2 and 2.
Yep.
Thought 2 and 2 was 4.
Punch!
Oh, ow.
Yeah. So today we're talking about, we had a sort of a loose topic of, how did we describe it? It was art, the science of art, right?
I didn't really describe it. I had this sort of like brain nugget. And
That sounds disgusting.
Yeah. Fortunately, you fleshed it out for me, Jeff.
You
Or fished it out for
flushed
me.
it down.
Yeah. Basically, I'd come across an article that was, I think, talking a little bit about the science behind creativity. I think specifically this one was looking at like MRI scans and what areas of the brain, light up when we're problem solving and doing creative type tasks.
Right.
And so we decided to take a larger look at it and kind of just explore different aspects of it, both biology and some philosophy and maybe some specific tools and things like that you can access. Oh, wait, take two. Can I try that again?
Okay, here we go. Adam in podcast, take 2.
That you can access the recesses of your creative brain.
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 Harder to do the echo, eh? If you're not here. Yeah, and so we broke it down to a couple of parts, biology and sociology and tools, basically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But before we get into all that, we have some updates.
We have a celebrity.
Yeah, things have happened.
Yeah.
Aaron Gottlieb, we announced at some point in the podcast that he was nominated for a Metropolitan Atlanta Theater Award, but now we can announce that Aaron Gottlieb has officially won a Metropolitan Atlanta Theater Award. Take it away, Aaron. Explain your category.
I won Best Performance in a Minor Supporting Role. So I played the character of Schmendeman in Picasso at the Le Panagile, which is also a bit of an analysis of the science of art. It's a philosophical discussion between Einstein and Picasso on how art and science and thought are created and interwoven. And then this whack job comes in and takes all of the concepts discussed in the show up to that point and takes them to their illogical extreme. And proves that there is more to being a genius than knowing the concepts. Anyway, so he comes in for like 4 pages and rattles off essentially a monologue, which I got to do. It was a great deal of fun, and I was selected as best actor in that type of role.
Neat.
Hooray!
And they gave you a plaque and potato salad, right?
Yes.
You did get your potato salad, right?
No.
You know it's not official unless they give you potato salad. Otherwise, it's
Well,
the
they
placebo
had
award.
the super groovy cool winners circle, where right after you walked off stage, there was a bartender waiting to give you a drink.
Didn't you flip people off?
Yeah, that picture.
There's a
Let's talk about this.
There's a rumor on the internet that I lost my cool during the awards ceremony and flipped the entire academy and gathered artists off from the podium. And despite the photographic evidence, this is not what happened.
That's what his press people say.
Nice spin.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's not what I heard on TMZ. Or whatever Atlanta's version of TMZ would be. Let's make that.
Okay.
ATMZ.
ATM.
Atoms.
That sounds like a new phone company, though.
With ATMZ, you get nationwide rollover minutes as well as this puppy. Ta-da! Well, anyway, congratulations, Aaron. Yay!
Yay!
Thank you very much. It's really cool. Like
Yeah.
I'm supposed to play all. Oh, it's fine. It's cool. But no, I'm like, it's really exciting.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff are happening. There's storms, moving Republican conventions, and other things.
Affecting the whole outcome.
You had something that you wanted to
What?
chat about. Something enraged you.
Did it?
Yeah, you were just
I've
saying,
been enraged lately.
this thing, and now I'm going to talk about it on the show.
Really?
And now it's the show.
I don't remember.
You don't
I
remember?
do. I remember
What?
a thing
What did I
I'm
say?
enraged about.
All right.
I enrage about a lot of things.
That's true.
Jog my memory.
I thought it was political.
Oh, the whole. Well,
Yeah, but-
you mean the nominating process?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be a long talk about
All right.
stuff that isn't really applicable
No, I
to our
thought you had
topic.
something that was applicable to the topic that enraged you. That you
Enraged
you
me.
totally told me you wanted to lead with it, and here I am setting that up. Now I fail.
No, I think I was talking about the
Oh, you
convention,
were?
but I was kidding because that would be a terrible thing to lead with for this topic.
And that
never
we've
know
talked
when you're
about
kidding.
for 2 minutes now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's over.
It's done.
All right, Aaron.
I'll be enraged about other things.
I was going to be enraged about something.
I am enraged about grammar. I've been seeing things out on the internet. First of all, there was a stupid game about let's post our names without vowels on Twitter. And the fact that that's a game is sort of enraging all on its own. But then there was this screen capture of all the people who responded to it going, I don't know what a vowel is. Ha ha. Or I can't do that. I don't have a vowel in my name. It's just Max. Anyway, we need to save the world from idiots.
Yeah,
My current solution is to remove all of the warning labels all at once, universally, and let the problem fix itself. If anybody else has other ideas, please feel free to get in touch with me, and I will help save the world from the internet and the internet from the world.
To be fair, there are probably people that would like to save the world from people like us. You know, like an ArTechník.
That's right. You might even have like a sleeper cell within ArTechník. I'm saying it could be me. All subtlety be damned. It's me.
Oh, are you the evil Monte? Because remember, he didn't have the mustache, and now he
And
has
now
the
I do.
mustache.
Yeah.
So you're the evil one from the mirror universe. So
Yep.
at some point, we'll have to transport you back.
October
Adam, does it
31st.
bother you that you've had the mustache for nearly a year, and this is the first time we've even gotten close to figuring out
Considered,
that you're
yeah.
more
No,
evil
that
than
just
you
means
used to
I
be?
did my job really, really well.
But evil
Oh, good.
Montague's the only one that's ever been on the podcast, so we know he's interesting. Like he's a sure bet. What if we get the other one back and he's
He'd just
awful
be
at it?
a dud. Absolutely. That's why we have to keep him in that alternate universe.
All right.
That sounds like a good plan. The other thing that's gotten me impassioned, if not enraged, is I've read this new, well, I don't think it's new to me, The War of Art. And it doesn't necessarily say anything totally out of the blue, unknown to me, but it says it really well. It's been putting a name on a lot of things I've been dealing with, and it has gotten me so powered up and charged about going forward. And I highly recommend. It's like an $8 Kindle, so it's not bad. It's a quick read. It's short, but it's written out in like little chunks. So it's a great, like, once you've finished reading it, you can go back in and strategically just read the passages you need to recharge the batteries and keep going.
Or perhaps a chapter will last just long enough for you to take it to the restroom.
Ew.
Where everyone's Kindles go.
Really? I mean, I guess it makes sense. You used to keep a
Probably.
stack of magazines there.
Well, now people just pull out their phones. Think about that, and then they put them to their face.
Uh-huh.
Think about that one.
Ew.
Yep. Anyway, go on. I started reading it. Aaron's loaning
Way
it
to
to
undercut
me.
his beautiful story there, Jeff.
Yeah, the war of poop. Aaron's loaning it to me actually on Kindle, so I'm reading it on my own personal, non from Aaron's bathroom device.
Mm-hmm. But you probably take yours into your bathroom.
Well,
Yeah.
we're not going to talk.
Here's a
I clean
technological
it.
problem I'm facing.
Uh-oh. Yes,
Get us off this, please.
please.
The Kindle, the touch size Kindle, the one without the keyboard and without the cover and everything, it's really nice. It fits into a pocket, almost like any pocket. You can throw it in a bag or a binder or just about anywhere. And so you can always have like 1,000 books with you at any given point, which is great. I, however, have run into the problem that because it could be in almost any pocket, any bag, or even like my portfolio, I cannot figure out where I put my Kindle. And so I've lost an entire library all at once.
Check
This
your
is the dark side of
bathroom.
technology.
Did you just go into like a robot hallway?
Yeah.
No?
Oh, sounded like
On
you
our
did.
end, you did.
You're
I
like, this
mean,
is the dark side of technology.
See, that was that noise I was talking about earlier. Yeah.
I
What, the
can't
show?
hear it.
Whoa.
Yeah, the noise. That's how I refer to our technique.
Oh yeah, I make this noise about once a week. Lasts about an hour.
yeah.
Pisses a lot of people off. Anyway, so speaking of War of Art, which I started reading, which
Yeah,
is
it's a good segue.
I agree, Aaron. It is wonderful. My part of the topic today was to cover sort of the sociology of artists, the artist life, and what that is, and to demystify that a little bit. But what I ended up running into was actually more along the lines of studies of the economics of an artist's life, which, of course, the two are completely dependent on each other. Mm-hmm. Artists live the way they do because they don't make any money. They don't make any money because they're doing art, and in some cases, as I learned from the NEA, getting taken advantage of by large institutions. Let me see if I can find this so that I don't sound like a total moron. I downloaded this really large NEA study, and they talk about sort of the public perception of an artist's life versus the reality. And this study went between the years of 1990 and 2005. NEA was saying that, America tends to sort of romanticize what they think an artist's life is, thinking, maybe large sales, big gigs, or whatever that sustain them through, languish periods of...
That's what my artist life is like.
Sure. They say things, like the troubled dreamer, the footloose bohemian, a charming deadbeat who can steal the scene, all that kind of stuff. They say, but really what we need to acknowledge, what we've learned from this study, is that artists are workers. They're working class people, and they contribute a large bit to the economy. I'm just going to keep rambling on this because I love this, but some of the key things they found, there's a list. Nearly 2 million Americans are artists. All right, or identify themselves as artists, and they break that down into actors, musicians, things like that. The lowest paid artists in these categories are dancers. They earn on average $15,000 a year. Number two, the number of artists has kept pace with the overall growth of the labor force. So as there are more workers, there are more artists. Artists stay highly concentrated in urban areas. No surprise, the big cities, New York, Los Angeles. There are a lot of artists in Texas as well, and apparently the American South and the American West are where art populations are growing the most of working artists. It's also becoming more diverse. They're saying that artists are generally more educated than the workforce as a whole, which is interesting to me because we're more educated but earning less money. We weren't educated enough to decide not to go into art. And there's other stuff, but I mean, let me just throw out what's already out there. I could keep going down the list, but I won't. So yeah, there seems to be a disconnect between perception of artist life and the actual artist life, and I'm just interested in your opinions.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, done. No,
I would agree with those facts presented.
I can not really, I guess, dispute. That's not the word, but maybe add to the facts that you came up with. But I remember when I was in high school, which would have been back mid '90s, 1990s.
Not 1890s.
Well.
The mustache betrays you.
That's a different podcast. And so basically we had to do a report and research fields that we were thinking about going into. And I was kind of split between some sort of field in history and what does an actor do? You know, what do they make? How do they live? Da-da-da-da. And the statistics I were looking at were like things from the late 80s, early 90s. And it was sad. It was in terms of looking at how much money you would be making solely from jobs in your specific field. And again, I'm talking strictly about actors now, not technicians, not designers, things like that. But this is strictly performers. And it was something like you would only get, on average, they only made about $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a year. Yeah, and they were pointing, the misconception that we look at and we, see on, again, TMZ and Entertainment Tonight and all those things of so-and-so is getting paid $20 million for this movie or, even $2 million or $3 million for this movie. And that sort of skews the perception of maybe the value put on what they do. Yeah.
In America, they say, the study says that it's considered, and in the UK, it's considered to be a winner-take-all.
Yeah.
A few people get most of the money that's earned that year, and most everyone else doesn't.
And the statistic that said that those people that pull those big salaries, they said represented it was less than 0.5%. That number had always stuck with me, less than 0.5%.
Because you could probably name them all on two hands.
Sure.
Or your favorite stars. It's like, oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And but then again, the rest of this book and other sources I were pulling from was like, I mean, it is possible to make a living, at this, but if you're going in to get rich, you'll be disappointed. You'll be disappointed. Aaron?
Not me. I'm going to make a fortune. I'm going to sell out at the first opportunity. I am going to figure out a way to capitalize on all of this talent that I am rocking.
Which makes sense because you'll be doing it on your own. Because artists are 3.5 times more likely to be self-employed. And fewer artists have full-time jobs than other workers. So they're all trying to sort of make a go at it on their own. Well, not everyone. I mean, everyone we seem to know really seems to have a day job. But how long do they stay in it until it's like, yeah, I was going to do this job at this good thing, and then I got this show, or I could get this show if I quit my job. And you're presented, I think, all the time with the challenges of there's this thing that I want to do that I consider it my profession, say acting, but in order to do it, that means I have to quit this stable job or try to arrange some crazy things with hours until the employer gets fed up with that and says, forget it, just go somewhere else.
It's like that random in-store media you saw today.
Random in-store media?
You sent me a picture of a sign hanging up at the Jimmy John's.
Oh yeah, I did.
And it's exactly what you're talking about. I believe the quote was, "Are you willing to live a life that most don't want, that most wouldn't for a few years, so that you can live the life most people can't for the rest of it?" That was a really poorly phrased.
It was, but it was close enough.
Got it.
Yeah,
I got it. Yeah.
Are you willing to? Yeah, and I think it was such a good quote because it hits a. I mean, you could apply it to a lot of things. Of course, for me, I applied it to sort of the artist lifestyle, but I guess you could apply it to a lot of things. Yeah. Just going to say that over and over. You could apply it to a lot of things.
You could.
You could, I think, apply it
to
a lot of things.
Oh. Now, let's say you wanted to apply it to other things. Would that also be applicable?
I think to a lot of things, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, save us, Aaron. Save us.
Sorry, I will admit I was looking up a little stat I was trying to remember. So will you remind?
Yeah, while you're looking it up, I have a thing that pisses me off that I read in the study.
Good. Passion, bring it.
They say this is number 9 on the list. All right, women remain underrepresented in several artist occupations. All right, now they include architects and announcers in artists, but the 2 little bullet points the NEA study adds are 4 out of 5 architects and announcers, and almost 2/3 of musicians, producers, and photographers are men. Also, further in the study, you find out that men, guess what, also earn more in whatever their position is. 3 out of 4 dancers are women, and remember, women, about $15,000 a year. Dancers, I mean, about $15,000 a year, and if most of them are women, then there you go. But more than half of all designers and writers are women. And there's a breakdown. I mean, I think we should throw a link up to the NEA study up on the site, because it's really, it's big, but there's a lot of really, really obviously detailed data about how the categories and stuff. But I find it funny that the arts as a profession, which, and I think you think of artists as these often, well, the study says more educated, but we often think of as more perhaps open-minded, or we like to champion ourselves on inclusion, and I think often liberal bias perhaps, and things like that. Just things where you would think naturally we're going to include everyone, all races and religions and and genders and all of that. And here, just like in the rest of the country, women are
It still falls along those common
citizens.
lines. Yeah.
And I thought we were better than that, and I'm really freaking disappointed.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if some of that too is dictated by the people at the top, at the producers level, like where we get the money from and who, you know what I mean. And so
producers make up a small segment of the artists, but perhaps they bring in more money.
Yeah.
The largest segment by far were designers, and I think designers has a very broad category. And then they break down to actors, musicians, writers, dancers, and producers. But that would make sense. Producers, men, fewer, but they get more of the money. Sorry, I'm just going to train over whatever you were saying.
No.
But
You're adding to it. No, that's kind of what I meant. That yeah, I lost it. There we
That's
go.
fine. Sorry.
Yeah.
But it's just sad because most of, I don't know, I tend to deal with more women in the profession than I do men. But I mean, I'm mostly an actor. But then if I think about who's usually in charge,
It's usually men.
I've worked with plenty of women directors, but mostly male producers. That's again, disappointing is the best word I have for it. It's just disappointing because I feel like the artists are sort of culturally supposed to lay down the mission to the rest of humanity, saying, you know what, we're going to be better, we're going to examine ourselves as a culture and all of that, and it just feels hypocritical to me now.
There's an interesting bias pattern and neurological reaction to knowing that there's a bias, in that if you remind a female scientist that there is a bias that men are better scientists than women, they actually perform more poorly on a task that they would normally perform at a much better rate.
It's like planting the seeds of doubt, huh?
Yeah, and then there's also, on top of that, just simply knowing that the bias exists. When a female scientist is working with a male colleague scientist, they are more likely to lower their performance than working with another female colleague, because the research indicates that there is a tendency to start thinking about I wonder if my male colleague knows the bias that female scientists are supposedly worse at science than male scientists, and it downward spirals, self-triggered. And so I wonder if there is, within the divisions of the artistic field, back and forth in either direction, one of these reflections of bias.
Oh, absolutely not, Aaron. I mean, no artist ever doubts themselves. All artists are completely whole human beings with a sense of purpose and self and unshakable in their confidence.
Uh-huh.
Says the man that just interrupted you. So, there.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Try and talk.
I found the thing
So,
I was
you know,
looking up.
All right, I'm done. That joke's not going to fly over the air.
No. He can't see us. Keep going, Aaron.
And it's talking about those really high-paid salaries, the small percentage of artists that do make quite $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes it one extra step, and it divides TV personalities' salaries by their average viewership. So rather than they're paid this much a year, this status states what they're paid per viewer watching them. Mm-hmm. And there's some interesting ones in the mix. For example, Anderson Cooper makes $13.54 per viewer. And that's because he has an average salary of $6 million and a ratings of 0.443 million. Whereas, let me see, where it was. Because it's the internet instead of a newspaper, they've turned this into a really annoying point and click through each celebrity individually instead of a nice, concise list.
Mm-hmm. Whatever happened to lists? Things used to be numbered and categorized. Now they're all willy-nilly.
Ty Burrell from Modern Family, who plays the dad of the three-child family, is paid at around 8 cents a viewer. And I did some calculation of my own performance over the last year and actually discovered that I've been paid 13 cents per viewer. So I am already making more money than Ty Burrell on Modern Family. So you try and tell me that I'm not going to make it rich and famous in this world.
I was taking a breath in and then I hesitated. Interesting.
That sounds like surefire mathematics to me, Aaron.
I do, however, make less than Snooki.
Ugh.
16 cents per viewer.
But in fairness, she went out there and got every single one personally, so...
Maybe I don't want to fight as hard for equality for all women.
Oh.
Waka, waka, waka.
Yeah, she's
Ted
terrible.
Danson's 40 cents
We can
per
all
viewer.
agree.
Does she count as human?
Yes.
But again, Ted Danson, you got to look at his entire career, right? I mean, he's been on multiple series, some of them successful, some of them not. I don't know what kind of stage work he's done, but...
I think this equation is just his CSI money.
He's on CSI now?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It says Ted Danson, CSI.
Clearly.
Yeah.
I am not paying Ted Danson 40 cents an episode.
Interesting.
Someone else is. Anyway,
Well,
I thought that.
it's interesting, too, that, I'm going to get away from, I guess, sort of the gender politics of what we've been talking about and focus solely on one aspect that I heard in that argument about the power of, I guess, I don't know how to say it, the power of positive thinking. And in terms of, I will be rich and successful. I will make my way out of that less than 0.5% that makes $5,000 a year in 1991.
I am
You
a
too?
phoenix.
Excellent.
But wait, I'm going to counter it with something. Only because a question that I've been asking myself recently, and again, we're kind of coming back to, I guess, the science and maybe the whys of what makes us creative and what makes us artists. And some of the conversations we've had here over previous podcasts, I know we've talked about maybe sort of philosophies and different books and ideas that we come across. But I think what I'm asking right now is I'm starting to look what makes me personally, Adam Montague, an artist. And so starting to ask some of those questions. And one of the things that I recognize about myself is the fact that I tend to be somewhat negative about things. I mean, you guys know that I've been pretty forthright about the fact that, depression is something I struggle with, and how I seem to have like a lower, mood than most people. You know what? My normal is maybe below what most people would consider their baseline mood. Yeah. Anyway, and so I tend to skew on the negative side of things in terms of thinking about how a particular project is going to turn out, or what I'm working on, or whatever. And I've been coming across a lot, there's been a lot of research coming out recently, some journals, American Psychology and other things I've been coming across, talking about how negative thinking might actually be more beneficial than positive thinking. And that idea of one day I'm going to meet my goal and I'm going to be a successful actor on TV and I'm going to have this. And it was talking about like visualization, techniques are part of positive thinking. And, but how they were saying that negative thinking might actually be more beneficial to your overall life goals than necessarily positive thinking. Because they said what is starting to come out, and again, they're just starting to ask this question about, which particular worldview might be more valuable to you as a entrepreneur, artist, whatever. And the idea of that maybe having a slightly more negative worldview is helpful, because what they're finding out is the people with the more positive worldview tend to be less realistic. They don't look at what's going on now because they've got their eye on the end goal and the future, what the future is going to hold to me.
So they don't practically lay plans. They don't visualize
Well,
short-term attainable goals, perhaps.
Somewhat, yeah. Aaron, you were going to say.
I think it comes down to the old Marilyn Monroe quote about you have to go in there acting like you're the best things since sliced bread, but know that you're not.
Yeah. I would, and that is, but then again, that in itself is a negative mindset.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But
yeah.
it has
Turned
to
out fine
have
for her.
a positive.
I have a positive mindset.
I don't. Well,
Yes.
maybe some people would. I certainly wouldn't claim that thinking positively will lead you to an outcome. Thinking positively and then acting on it as hard as you can every single moment of every single day leads to a positive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
But so does thinking having a negative outcome and acting on it positively every single moment of every
Right.
single
But
day.
maybe having a negative baseline view allows you fewer but better choices. You know what I mean? You say probabilities of success for a given thing are maybe easier to, I don't know, navigate. I had a better point, and then my brain lost it.
I think I see what you're saying, and that kind of comes back to what I was going to repeat or bring back to, whatever. Negative. People that tend to focus on the negative have thought of sometimes almost limitless possibilities. You know what I mean? You've thought of all the ways it can possibly go wrong, or rationalized all the reasons why this would be a terrible idea, and then yet you still move forward. And so then in some way you're better prepared to meet those challenges because you have thought about them beforehand.
It's a pragmatic thing. It's I see this negative outcome, therefore I am better potentially buffered against it, and I've thought of what is my fallback plan if this happens. It's like there's a thing in 4 Hour Work Week actually that kind of is like this, that that really helped me move forward with a lot of things, which was imagine the worst possible outcome of if you took a bomb to your life right now. If you say you have a good job, say it's a regular job, but say it's not the job you want to do, and say you have a positive but fanciful dream of pursuing, say, another thing, say a creative thing, since that's what we're talking about today. What is the worst possible thing that could happen if you dropped everything to pursue that, and how long would it take you to recover realistically back into the life that you currently have? Right? So you're like, well, what's the worst thing happen? I quit my job. Okay, I can't pay for my basic things like, I can't pay for my phone and utilities. Okay, I don't have a place to live. Oh crap, I've got to move back in with my parents. Okay, well that's fine. We'll get along fine. But then my parents have to give me money, and the strain of my parents giving me money causes them to collapse when they have a health problem, and so you just start bracketing defenses against it. Say, and the worst that could happen, okay, they got a health problem. Guess what? I've hit the total bottom. I've got to go back and get a job doing anything, fry cook, whatever, and you figure out exit strategies to rebuild.
Yeah.
And I find that there's a sort of forward and backwards bracketing as you go towards whatever your goal is. It's like you move a few steps forward and a couple steps back, but you sort of built in these defensive by thinking what you're calling negative and what I'm calling, I think, maybe realistic in your option set.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Aaron?
I think realistically appraising risk is a positive way to go through life, but assuring yourself that nothing good is ever going to happen as a negative outlook is not necessarily an enjoyable way to make those realistic appraisals of risk.
Sure. Yeah, and again, I think they were just, they're just starting to ask
they
these
have
questions.
to look at things in yes or no, black and white for each study, and then they can start working into shades of gray by doing additional studies.
Right. Yeah. So,
But I'm saying I believe in like the study. Like I think that I could see why what the information that Adam's presenting really would make sense for me.
That's cool.
yeah, cool. All right. Yeah. All right. So, what else?
Awkward segue. Did I kill the topic? I didn't mean to.
No.
Kill the topic.
I think we've kind of
I
agreed
think
what
we talked about it.
we did. We talked about it, and I think to an extent we've all agreed how much we want to acknowledge how much we want to acknowledge that statement's maybe personal involvement in in each in each of our lives.
Right. Well, was there anything else in the study that sort of caps?
I think
kind of covered
if the study statement is a Pollyanna attitude is not going to resolve your life, and a realistic, possibly pessimistic attitude will, that seems like a reasonable and a true study.
Yeah.
But that's as far as I'm willing to say that is a true thing.
Well, I think the great philosopher Jagger said that you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need.
Indeed.
That's deep.
Makes me want to watch House.
Oh.
Everything makes you want to watch House.
I'm grumpy and take Vicodin.
Cool. Cool. Oh, well, another, that was just, I guess, sort of a jumping off point for me in terms of things that I was researching. Another thing that I was supposed to bring to this discussion were specific tools.
Please bring something to
Bring
this
it.
discussion.
Yeah.
All of your stuff so far.
Since I failed so miserably. Oh, God,
But
I'm just
you-
a failure.
you predicted and you
If I
bracketed
had
for
just
that.
worked harder and maybe
Now you're gonna
researched
make
a
it,
little
kid.
longer.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did you just turn to Laura?
I did it. Oh, Rob, I was building there. I was building to Laura. Aaron heard it, and I saw the glimmer in your eye, Jeff. Oh, Mary Tyler Moore.
God.
So I was supposed to.
I mean, there's highly successful woman in entertainment. I mean, yes, she was in that top bit of artists that had most of the money. But I wonder what she was paid compared to like her male contemporaries.
Yeah.
I just wonder.
I can't even
Grant.
imagine going through, and we're of course a little biased because we're three men sitting around talking about this.
Yeah.
But I've had female colleagues and friends and talk about both. I remember people that just getting out of college with, as well as older working actresses that I know, that you just look at the numbers and there's so many women, so many actresses out there, and how so many of them kind of drop off and kind of disappear and go away because they're just the sheer numbers.
Well, in that joke, you can always find another skinny blonde chick to put in a show. Have you ever heard that? You've never heard that thrown around?
I mean, I've heard that conceit, but
yeah.
You putting it there so concrete was like, no, I haven't heard that joke.
I've heard it basically said straight out, just
Wow.
like, there's a million little blonde girls out there.
Yeah.
If this person can't do this role, then another person will.
Yeah.
People who've said those things remain nameless, but
Name names.
And you're just like, shh.
So, going back to some tools in terms of ways that you can approach how to be a more creative person. And again, looking back at some of the things we talked about on previous podcasts, we have covered aspects of this before. So I was looking at kind of highlights of people that I like, as well as trying to come up with maybe a list, Jeff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I made a list.
Well, we'll take that list, and then Aaron will put it on the website in a slideshow where you have to click through each part of it to get to it. Never displaying the actual list.
Those are the most effective lists. So I just made like a little 4-point list of that I think summarizes and encapsulates a lot of the trends I see in all these different sort of philosophies and things. So number 1 is inspiration is for amateurs. Just show up and do the work.
Yes.
That's number 1. I'll never.
Is that writing equals ass plus chair.
Yeah, speaking of writing, that's I think when that concept finally hit me was in college, Hazel Hall. It was in the playwriting class, and she basically said, those. Well, I'll do Hazel. Well, those people. Those people that talk about like they're waiting for that little bit of inspiration. That bird to fly through the window and land on their shoulder. Well, it's bullshit. Essentially you have to commit to, sit down every day for an hour or whatever types of boundaries you want to put on yourself. But you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent at whatever the task is and whatever it is you're trying to create. And, if you're lucky, some new thought that no one's ever thought of before, some new way to put it out there might come to you. But
Not every episode of this show is
You're
great.
spending 100 hours thinking about something being new and original. You have 100 times the chance of somebody who spends an hour thinking about making up something new and original.
Okay.
I was going to say, not every episode of this show is great, but damn it, we show up every week. When we have the great ones, they're great.
We had that conversation very recently. Yeah. Yeah.
The War of Art talks about it. You have to make the decision of going from an amateur to a professional, and not in the sense of a professional as in someone's paying you to do the job, but that you do the job because it is the job.
Mm-hmm.
You don't call in sick. You don't slack off. You show up. You sit down. You do whatever it is you're doing to create.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I'm the first one to yell at Aaron when he wants to talk about the making of the podcast on the podcast, but I'll break my own rule, and Aaron can now yell at me. We really do make an effort to show up and do the show every week, and we sometimes talk off air about, wow, it actually starts to feel a little bit like a job. And I think there's been periods of the show where I think that's reflected in some of the episodes where maybe we've lost some energy or whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like that what I think I said to you, Adam, is I feel like it's kind of like, look at the Tonight Show. That thing's been running forever. I mean, with different hosts or whatever. But any long show, I think that there's a certain period of growth artistically and in the content that can only be reached after you sort of hit your head against the wall and you say, okay, we've done all this stuff that we're good at, and now it's slowing down as we're sort of figuring out what is it about to become next. And we could not make that progress and that growth if we didn't show up and do the damn show every week.
Agreed. Yeah. All right. Number 2 is simply be organized. Be organized. And that kind of ties into the first one. I kind of think of it as a separate idea. We've talked about different ways to organize. Maybe bears a specific podcast talking about it. We talked about knolling.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah. So just be organized. Again, I think that's be organized,
That
be
one,
consistent. Aaron.
Personally, I'm working on, and
Sure.
I'm about to do a major again, jazzed up by this book, and it talks about sort of the same thing. And it's like, I've always had this idea, like I talk about, if I'm on the clock, I know exactly where every pencil is and where everything is. Like if I'm stage managing a show for somebody, or if I'm working or writing or whatever, I know where my stuff is. But it's at home, that's fine. That's where I just am me, and that doesn't matter what it looks like. But I'm changing my mind about that. And I'm like, I have to get everything into shape now.
Well, it's like me with the studio in the house. Anywhere I've lived in the past few years, I've carved out some kind of office space or some kind of studio space somewhere that is dedicated to the work. And it's been a really difficult process to be consistent with it. Consistency is a huge challenge for me. Yeah. But I also now have more space than I've ever had, to the point that I can actually have the studio in the house now, and everything suddenly has a dedicated place. And we've had back-to-back shoots and bookings lately that would have been impossible to not pull my hair out over our own recent I was going to say success, but consistently booking a thing.
Right.
If it weren't for the fact that every cable has a place, all the memory cards have a place, and there's a system for importing the footage. And the thing is, if you're dealing with footage and memory cards, there's always that worry of, did I get it? Did I get it? Is it on the computer? Is it on the card? Yeah. And saying, and I used to just stack up cards filled with stuff because I wasn't sure what was where. But now we have a system. We go through, delete everything. I know the cards are empty, and everything has a reset physical place and whatever else it needs to be, so that we can pick up and just do the next shoot, because I've learned now that I never know when they're coming. It's just like the acting work. You've got to have your stack of headshots and resumes ready to go, because you never know when the work is coming next. And an artist's life is, I think, unpredictable. Which makes be organized.
Be organized. You never know. All right, number 3, make mistakes. Lots of them.
Yeah.
Yay, mistakes.
Yay, remember us fixing the audio.
Hooray. Yeah, that was crazy. Yay.
The sooner you make your first 5,000 mistakes, the sooner you can get onto your next 5,000. One of my favorite quotes.
Yeah.
There was a Thomas Edison one I always liked, too, about, 900. Yeah, well, it's associated with him. I don't know if he really said it, but,
You're right. Probably some employee said it.
They wrote it on a bathroom stall, yeah. He was in there taking a leak and ready. He goes, I'll steal that too.
Mine.
Yeah. But, I know.
I'm Thomas Edison and everything is mine. Mine.
But to the effect of, I now know 99 ways or 999 ways how to not make a light bulb or to kill a man. How to steal a man's, hard-earned secrets. Yeah. I don't know what you thought I was going to say, Jeff.
When I was teaching camp, when I was teaching camp, in my class, I was
speaking of murder. I'm so sorry.
When I was introducing the rules, I said, by Friday, you are required to have made a mistake. And the kids got really quiet and stared at me for a second. And then they were like, what? And I'm like, you can't make any progress if you don't make a mistake. So by Friday, you are required to make a mistake. And so one of them was like, what if we don't make a mistake by Friday? And I said, that in itself would be a mistake, and therefore satisfy the requirements of this rule.
You can't not win.
And, which is always my goal when I work with students. Yeah. How can I make it so they can't not win?
Which is different than everyone gets a cookie and a certificate, I think.
Yes, definitely, very much so.
Because everyone's hungry and no trees were harmed. Sorry. I made a mistake. I failed boldly.
Yeah.
You did, and that's a good thing. But anyway, we would start, somebody would be like, oh, I have to make a new puppet. I messed mine up. And we'd be like, yeah, you made a mistake. And eventually it evolved by the end of the week into the 5-second dance party.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
So if somebody made a mistake, everybody just stopped what they were doing, and we got up and we had a celebratory 5-second dance party for whoever had tried something new and it had totally failed. And it became an absolutely great celebration of course you messed up. You were trying to make a puppet out of straws and toothpicks for the very first time. And if you had done it safely, exactly like the model, then you wouldn't have messed up.
Cool.
So that was a fun thing about.
Number four on my list of 4 things. Finish what you've started, human.
Leave me alone.
Sorry.
Ferengi. Human.
No, that's actually from, you remember that Japanese cartoon, Spirited Away? Yeah. That was a quote from that.
Well, then I will in turn quote Princess Mononoke in retaliation. But I don't know any Japanese. So instead, I offer this quote from Thomas Edison. I own everything. I'm Thomas Edison. Everyone else makes mistakes for me.
Good. I'm glad you finished that thought.
My assistant's finished it for me.
Oh, he's still going. So finish what you've started. Basically, you finish a project or an idea, painting, a poem, a script. Sometimes because we get hired out and that's our job to finish those. But if it's a project that you're working on personally, finish it.
Well, it's like Aaron did with the script frenzy, right, Aaron? Script frenzy?
Yeah, it was actually, yeah. The idea is to finish 100 pages, no matter what else about them. They are finished, and you have a thing. Because the other quote I've recently adopted on my own is, only the first one is impossible. And after that, it's a thing you do. So just do it.
I like
National Novel Writing Month is coming up, which I encourage everybody to just try, have a go at. It's in November. Sign up now.
So that overlaps with Movember, right? So I imagine everyone at Starbucks with mustaches typing away at their novels.
How is that different from any day at Starbucks?
Yeah.
Touche, Gottlieb. For me, every day is at Starbucks.
That's true. It'd be better to define days you aren't at Starbucks.
Oh, the dark times?
Yes. But
That's
finish
a good
what
list.
you started.
It's concise, but it's comprehensive.
Yeah, and there's, a lot of different philosophies and books and things out there that, approach these ideas in slightly different ways. And I've been reading a lot of them recently, as it sounds like you guys have as well. And Jeff, you've been giving me some books. And so, that's just the way I kind of crystallize it myself. Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking into the biology of art, and you mentioned it very briefly in the opening about the MRIs and things, because that's sort of where I ended up, because that's one of the more intimate ways we currently have to see the biological response of art. Is most of it seems to happen in the brain, and the way to study the brain's reactions currently are various MRI scanner technologies. So I sort of looked at 2 different elements, and I started with what happens to the brain when you're creating art. Okay?
Okay.
So I want to start with, I want you to imagine a figure 8. Like really try and visualize it, picture it in your mind.
You mean imagine a figure 8?
Yes. Now rotate it 90 degrees clockwise.
Now rotate
so
it 90 degrees clockwise.
Okay.
Now push and rotate one of the loops away from you.
Now push
and picture
and
that
rotate
shape.
One of the loops away from you.
Okay.
You have just used your infraparietal sulcus. That is the portion of the brain dedicated to visualizing 3-dimensional physical tasks virtually.
That's cool.
As opposed to, say, the muscle control region of the brain, just the visualization of physical tasks.
That's interesting.
Physical and geometric shapes.
There was, I remember this. There was this guy that used to do a lot of shows. Were in a lot of shows back at Darton College, and he was incredibly smart. And he was, of course, fascinated with neuroscience and why we do the things. And so we would have a lot of interesting conversations. And he said something to me that always kind of stuck with me, that like imagining sort of 3-dimensional objects.
Yeah.
They said most people can usually grasp that, but then starting to move and manipulate them, similar to what you just asked me to kind of imagine and describe myself, that they said there's a very narrow percentage of the population that can actually do that. However, it is something that you can get better at by consistency and training.
That's an interesting element that I hadn't found in my research yet, because that same zone, which apparently is a specialized muscle that people have to specifically work at, that is the zone that registers differently in an actor performing and an actor reciting.
Oh, hey, oh my gosh, that reminds me of this was floating around last year of a video with the British actress Fiona Shaw.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm talking about, Aaron?
Yeah, that's this.
No, that is that. Good. I like this. Then keep talking. I loved this.
She was put into an MRI scanner, and on the display, there were alternately sequences of a performance poem by T.S. Eliot that she had performed at some point in her life, and random lengths of numbers, 20 through 36 or whatever. And so she would read the numbers, recite it, she would read them and then just recite them. There was no emotional content, there was no performance of it. She just read whatever numbers were displayed. Or she performed the poetic piece, which was a dialogue between a man and a wife. So she was actually playing multiple characters within the same dialogue. Mm-hmm. And during the number recitation, all of the normal linguistic centers of the brain activated and triggered and were read off by the MRI. But when she was acting, performing a text, giving it everything she could emotionally and character-wise, the part of the brain that activated was this infraparietal sulcus, which is used to visualize and manipulate three dimensions in the mind. There's no currently indication on why these two zones or this zone of the brain does these two different things, but it's sort of an interesting thing that, yes, there was a difference between when an actor is working and when a person is speaking, and even when an actor is working and when an actor is speaking. There is something more going on at the base biological level.
We call that magic.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's the actor's magic. During the musician's MRI scans, they have discovered that when a musician performs their own music, particularly improvisation, they trigger the same area of the brain that responds to the question, "So tell me about yourself."
Wow.
So we know music and musical creation is personal, but at the base biological brain level, it responds. Playing a piece of music inspirationally is just talking about yourself as a musician.
I wonder, is that different if you in theatrical improvisation? They're very different skills, I suppose, but
I don't.
You know what I mean?
I wonder if all three sections would light up.
Oh, and then you throw like cocaine into it?
What? No.
Disco
No,
brain.
We do not
Studio
throw
50.
cocaine into the equation. I mean, I suppose as a study it would be interesting, but as a life
Stuff
choice,
over
I
the
recommend
microphone.
against it.
That's donut residue.
Oh, that's why the shows are so lethargic and less
That's right.
peppy.
We're carb crashing.
We can do anything! Yeah!
And then by the time you get the sound working, we've sugar crashed.
Press on, Gottlieb, press on.
So that's what I've discovered about what's actually happening in the creation of art in the brain. Any thoughts so far?
Is there like a link somewhere to see the pretty MRIs?
The images?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'll post it.
That'd be cool. What I do wonder, the improv question makes me think multiple artists who work in multiple disciplines. I guess the brain just compartmentalizes, and you just
use the part you're using right at that moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was also interesting, the actor, when she looked at her MRI results and found there was this giant discovery that performance used a different part of her brain than speaking. She was quoted as saying, "What a beautiful brain," and then went off to rehearsal.
That's nice.
And got back to the work.
Yeah. Well, I always wonder about going back to all the Keith Johnstone stuff that I'm obsessed with. We need to get a study of the brain under trance or under mask, and see what happens to see if the
it would be hard since you have to do the scan in an isolated, stationary sort of position at the moment. I mean, eventually there will be a way, and there may be ways to do lighter readings, but to get a full MRI and the scan techniques you've talked about seems like it would be challenging. But just because something is challenging does not mean it's not worth doing.
Not as long as the scientists show up every day and are organized and all those other rules.
Make mistakes.
Like forgetting the
on the
rule.
monkeys first. On the monkeys first.
Okay.
And then finish what you've started.
Oh yeah,
human.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Human.
Human. ... Human.
As he gets to rule number 2 out of 4.
Okay, so this has proven to be a really big topic, and we've talked a lot about the science of art, especially from the perspective of the artist. Aaron's got a little bit more to go into about the biology of it, and specifically talking about things from the audience's perspective. But that also shows that this is such a big topic that I think we ought to pick up with this next week and do the science of art part 2. And I think maybe, and our first 2-parter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's exciting.
Talking about things like bias and stuff like that. So come back next week. We're going to pick up with part 2 of this. And things will get even more in depth and a little crazy. And you also will be with us for our 24th episode, which means that will be our a whole day of ArTechník.
Tune in, or our interparietal sulcuses will get you.
Yes.
Do we do sign-offs at the end of a to be continued?
Ooh, we do cliffhangers.
Okay.
All right. I'm Jeff. And will I survive the Rancor pit in order to present my report next week for part 2? Find out next time. Or Aaron.
I'm Aaron, and I may come out of the coma.
I'm Adam Montague, or am I?
To be continued. One, dun, dun. You have an actual mustache that's twirled.
I am twirling it. I was calling back to the twin thing earlier.
Okay,
God.